Okay. So the chakra wheels are like smaller versions of a galaxy. When we look out to see what our galaxy looks like, or if we see a picture of a galaxy, because there are many, but they all have the same shape, and it looks very much like, the shape is exactly like a chakra. Except a galaxy, it collects the bodies within it, which are much, 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 much bigger than the chakra collects the bodies of light that we cannot see with our own eyes. But the energy, the chakra pulls in the energy. It either pulls it in, that which it is attracted to, or that which it attracts. And that can be conscious and unconscious, coming from the conscious and coming from the unconscious. Both is attracting energy to us. So that energy coming at it is being either it opens up to it or it repels it because it's afraid of it. The energy that flows in, it's very similar to a windmill. If you imagine a windmill and the wind is coming at it like this, then the windmill starts to turn. And it has a turn, it has a spin, just like the galaxy also. It's like a spin either this way around, or it's a spin this way around, and of course that's relative to your time-space vantage point. That's relative to from where you're looking from. It can be this way around here. Okay, anyways, it turns in one direction. I don't know which direction my chakra turns, but it turns in one direction. My sense is it's this way. So what that does is, there's like a tornado, right? Anyways, we have the third eye, which is the pineal gland in the middle of the, I don't know if it's exactly in the middle of the head, but it's like right between here, pretty sure it's right here, and then the middle of the head horizontally, the middle, and this I guess is vertically, and you go straight, and then where they meet, I would imagine it's somewhere in the vicinity of that place is the so-called pineal gland, third eye. So apart from our heart, which is a portal which opens up to the soul actually lives, like the seat of the heart is the soul, and then from there the soul spreads, similar to like an energy body of light. I don't know if you've seen the movie, I think it's called Soul. In German it's called Souls. It's from the second book of Stephanie Meyer, where it's that image, what they took out of the body. That's how I imagine a soul. It's like a light body, and the light is very, very bright. And it's an actual body. They say that when in the moment of death, we lose 22 grams. I've heard of that. So, and also it is said that in the moment of death, the soul leaves. That's what it does. The body falls. It's like there's like a division then between the body and the soul. In that moment, they were a unit up to that moment. The body and the soul were a unit. There was no separation there. There was no the separation was only in the mind. When in the mind, where we are coming from, and how we understand ourselves and who we understand ourselves to be is the soul, then the mind is very congruent, very aligned with the soul. with all the soul's impulses and missions and desires and so forth. The flow in that it's aligned in this column with the flow of the light. And so the seat is the heart, and how the heart is connected with the third eye. It shares the light. The light also gets into the pineal gland. That's also where it lives. That's also where it shines. And in the pineal gland, we have something called the master cell. In the middle of the pineal gland, there's the master cell. And whatever is uploaded to the master cell is uploaded instantly to every single cell in the body. Whatever code, whatever image, whatever belief, whatever thought, whatever. So the emotions, they come out of that. But that's a whole other story. So, now when the chakras begin to spin, there's two reasons why they spin. One is because energy is coming at them, and they're either sucking it in or repelling it. It's, as I said, similar to a windmill. And it's like the energy coming in is making it move. And when the chakra spins, what happens is it's like a tornado. And that tornado, the eye of this tornado, right, from this chakra spin that looks like a galaxy, the eye of it is the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is, as I said, connected in the heart. And also, every single chakra of the body has its portion of light from the soul. And that of course differs. It differs of how awake, how fast the spin is of the chakras, and how awake one is, which means to who we really are, to who I really am. Like, how awake am I to reality as it is without any filters, without telling me stories about it that I gather out of my memory, but that are by all means not the absolute and only truth, because there's as many stories as there are perspectives. So what you have is this light out of the heart. It flows up, shines up into the pineal gland, and I don't know what the system is that connects them, but I believe it has to do with the spine. And I believe it's that because in the spine we have these juices that flow, these liquids that flow, and they feed each other. Feed each other. It feeds that system of chakras that are aligned to it. It feeds the soul, actually. So it feeds the chakras and it feeds the soul. I have to explain this, how this works, or capture it as it's coming to me. And then I can see, I can look at it, I can listen to it later, maybe, and then I'll see if it resonates, because it's what resonates right now. But I first have to, because I don't know what's coming, so I have to kind of like go along the lines of what I have and then see where it takes me. So the tornado here meets the tornado here, because there's also a tornado in vertical, in the vertical. And this is going down. It's coming through the fontanella, or coming out of the fontanella also. There's always a coming in and a going out. There's always this exchange. But within the exchange, there can be balance. There can be more going out than coming in, more coming in than going out, all the way to equal balance. So, it comes down, the light comes down from the crown, which is like the fontanella, you know, because the bone of the skull is very thin. And so, that's what creates the halo, or that's what the halo stands for, and that's what creates this crown, because the light, when it's very bright, it can shine through. So, and on certain dimensions where that light shines brighter, or maybe looking at it from the lower dimension, you can really see the light, and then it looked like a halo. So this is also a tornado, and where the tornadoes meet is the eye of the storm, which is the third eye. And what happens is that as this spins in one direction, it also, like, you can imagine this in a very mechanical way, you know, that when I have a spin like this, and then there's this other spin that goes this way, the juices that flow, the two currents, one flowing in one direction, the other flowing in the other direction. Those are the two currents that are flowing through the spine. I don't know what they're called, but in osteopathy, for example, it's about calming or getting that back into a natural rhythm when stress has happened, and then the rhythm is off, and it continues to be off through chronic stress and not being able to recover from where it came off from. So that's, you know, these liquids. Let's get to them later. But what happens is that when this spin gets really fast, then it also accelerates this spin, and vice versa. When this spin accelerates, it will accelerate the chakras on the outside. So this spin, the vertical spin, which is this way, is fed by our own soul, by the light of our own soul. And the chakras also, I mean, there's light coming out of here, but they're more prone because the heart chakra, of course, you know, whatever comes in there, it is also fed. The heart chakra is like an instant portal of balance, because it is both fed it's the same thing, right? It's fed, well, because the soul lives in the heart, and it's fed by the soul, and of course also by what comes in from the outside, by other souls' light. The heart is, yeah. The heart is the most pure and most open portal to the soul. The heart is emotion, and the third eye is imagination, is the mind. The mind, and it takes both. Because the mind is what makes the world, you know, what makes time, space. And the heart is the feeling of it all. And the mind is the one who tells stories about the heart and what's going on in the heart. The heart itself is without the mind, it's a physical, you know, you just feel it physically. as a contraction or as an expansion. And that's what creates the emotion is how it is interpreted. How it is understood. Because a contracting heart with a story that goes along that is so exciting, or that's why it is so exciting. So a story that is so positive, a heart or something that makes the heart contract in fear, but, or I don't know, in fear, yeah. Is it real fear? Because that's excitement when there's, like, what I'm thinking of is a roller coaster. You know, we're all screaming our heads off, and we love it, you know? It's excitement. So, that's what I mean. It's the difference whether the contraction in the heart is enjoyed or suffered is the story about it. And of course there are many stories where we would say you can't change it, you know, it's a horrible story no matter what angle you look at it from, no matter what dimension you look at it from. Yeah, I don't know about dimensions. That's the thing. If you, a lot of the things that happen to us that make us suffer, when looked out of the dimension of the soul, which means out of the expanded consciousness of yourself, from a place of expanded consciousness and understanding that the soul, what a soul is, that you are the soul. You are, the body is the soul incarnate. It means the body is the dense form of the soul, but it is the soul. At the same time, when it falls, when in death, when the body falls, it goes back to the great soul. It goes back to earth. And we, of course, our souls are somehow also very much connected with earth. So it's like, it's kind of like, it goes back to a greater body, and as a soul you can see that it's not, that you are connected to it, and that it's not something else. Even when you don't see all the lines connecting every object, as a soul, you're in unity consciousness, and that also means that your perception of reality is completely relaxed. You can't get afraid of yourself when you know that all souls are God's body. You know, the body, that they are the living light body of all that is, you know, all the way down to any kind of object, because at the bottom of even the most inanimate thing, you know, be it a piece of plastic or I don't know, you go into it and you have atoms and you have organic, real matter, the building blocks of all life. So it's vice versa. When the heart opens up, then this channel is flowing better and faster. And so when this channel is flowing better and faster, all the chakras are beginning to spin in more of a flow. And that also means they attract whatever they attract faster. And so whatever is in your unconscious that is attracting, and it's not that opposites attract, it's that, like in this case, it's like attracts like. So if there's unconscious fear somewhere, it'll happen. And then, of course, the mind goes, well, that's a reason to be afraid of that. But it's a mechanism. It's happening anyways, so it's been happening all the time. You survived so far, so, there's not really any reason to become more afraid than the way you feel right now. So, but it is a good incentive, certainly, and the thing is, it becomes fun as everything starts to spin faster and is more in balance. Because as the light of the soul grows stronger, that also means at the same time that your consciousness expands. It means that your consciousness, that part which you thought was you and you identified as yourself, those kind of beliefs and those kind of thoughts, they're falling away because they're being seen for what they are, thoughts that aren't worth keeping because they're not telling the truth. So it just dissolves. Or if you just see at some point something, the parable or analogy is good with the seeing eye, because the whole time you thought maybe there's also this story. And so I'm going to take that example. The whole time you're looking at this thing and you're scared of it because you think it's a snake. And then at some point you realize that your eyesight wasn't clear, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a rope. And that hasn't happened to me yet, but I've had it in other ways that I looked at something and thought it was something totally different, and then I realized it was what it was. So as they're falling away, what is left is the mind of the soul, you see? So this is the egoic mind. The egoic mind is all these beliefs and thoughts, the whole construct of a world built on concepts that are based in the so-called truth, which is not true, of that there is such a thing as two. That separation does exist. Now, I can say, well, it does, Very clearly it does. Like, people we know that they exist and they're not here in the moment. It's at least, maybe it's not total separation on an atomic level, anyways not. It's not maybe even separation on a soul level. They might have, they might be connected through like a stream of light somehow, their soul bodies. All of that is possible. I don't know. But on this level, on this density, it is very clear that separation exists. Okay. That, however, is a subject to perspective. That's only subject to perspective, because you go one, you just go up one dimension, or density. I would say probably one dimension, and you can see it. It's like all of a sudden you see it. Like there are some people who can see auras, and who can see how energy flows in between people and how energy is being exchanged. And it's just a matter of tuning the senses even more sharp, to then be able to see it. So if there's enough evidence already in our lives here that, and anyways, on a quantum level, physics level, anyways, there was no separation. So I mean, there's it cannot be refuted or reputed. Yeah, on that level, it cannot be refuted. Yeah. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as I see through these thoughts, and how it happens is that you just a thought just becomes obsolete. The thought just becomes like, oh yeah, okay, get it. Oh, it's yellow, it's not green. Or, oh, okay. Oh, I thought it would happen this way. Oh, now that makes sense, And then this whole story, it's gone. It's gone because, you know, you see things clearer, and then if whatever you were believing doesn't make sense anymore, and you saw through it, and you realize, oh, that's what I was believing. You don't need to realize that in order for it to dissolve. You can just realize a different story that is aligned with okay. And of course that I explained in a different video how this works. The thoughts are electrical, emotions are magnetic. um, and the soul also has a certain frequency. And we have this light column, right, from the light of the soul, and that lives in the heart, and it shines into the third chakra, the third eye, the pineal gland, this purple chakra here. And there's one more, because there's also crown is up here. And it spins, like this. So it spins like this, and these, they spin like this. So the thoughts that dissolve the egoic mind, exactly, all the thoughts based in separation. And that also gives them the vibration of fear. That's the thing. It's the only thing that can, where anything that we're afraid of can have a hold in our body is when the premise is separation. If the premise is not, separation exists. If the premise is the knowing of oneness, like it is for the soul that lives in unity consciousness. So, if the knowing is of oneness, then in that, fear can only be the instinctive reaction of the physical body that contracts. But if as a soul, I know, excuse me, if as a soul, I know that nothing bad could ever happen, then it's just the reaction of the body. So that's why souls are very relaxed, but the body can get very unrelaxed. And then, especially, if the mind is affected. If the mind, how much the mind believes in separation, and how much the attention of, you have an awareness, you have consciousness. This, you are aware, you are conscious, and how much attention of this consciousness is affixed, is identified with this tree, this construct up here, which doesn't really exist in the brain as a physical matter. This construct of the egoic mind is, a thought, a thought has electricity, so it does exist on an energetic level. Yes, it does exist. And so there is this energetic tree made out of all separation-based thoughts, beliefs. Yeah. And that loses power as the truth is realized, and that just means you realize the soul part of you. That means that the identification and the attention, which was being held by a belief, it falls back into the soul's body, into the body of the soul. So the light grows. The light that was creating this egoic mind, energetic tree, a part of it, a stream fell back into the mother stream. A stream fell back into the father stream, to the mother-father stream, which is coming from the soul. And so it's kind of like the soul realizing itself and not getting itself lost and drawing the energy up in the egoic mind structure. Yeah. And thereby creating more fear for the body, because it's interpreting the world as two. So out of fear, and always have to protect itself, always a little bit uneasy, always seeing that, all the negative stories, basically all the negative stories. Because every other story that is based in the alignment with the soul, which means coming from the mind of the soul, seeing it through the mind of the soul, but then of course the mind of the soul all the way, the memory, everything, all the way down into the body, all the memory this body has. So it's also the memory of, except the soul's consciousness sees the illusion. It sees where it's still stuck. Its energy is still being hijacked there. It's still somehow, so there are still these parts, and you know why these parts can survive? Because they're unconscious. They're unconscious. Otherwise they could not survive. If we see a thought in full consciousness, there are, as long as we believe in separation, there will be a lot of things that we say, yes, that is true, I am afraid of that. Or, yes, that is true, I believe this and this and this. And it's a very negative belief. It's a belief that creates contraction. It's a very unpleasant belief. The soul is waking up. These parts of it are remembering, and that's when we remember. That's how, because when I say we have both. Our attention is split between the soul and the egoic mind structure, which is only a structure made out of the energy of the soul, really. But it doesn't see itself as that. It sees itself as these beliefs, as these thoughts. So it's like, I see myself in this certain way, through this certain perspective, through this certain filter of the world. And I see myself through that same filter. And so our attention splits up between being up here in this belief system, which is negative, based on fear, based on separation, and on just the presence of my soul. But the presence of my soul also when there is, and then there's the alignment. Yeah. So there's the alignment with the light, and then when, what does that mean when we are aligned with our soul? When that light aligns, what does that mean? Well, every time, and here we come to what splits off the energy of our energy column. It splits it off like this. It's like a stream that splits off, and so it also breaks the flow. It breaks the flow of the stream. And what makes it separate like this is the amount of separation in that belief that is being seen through right now. The world is being seen through this unconscious belief right now. And this conscious belief, however, it is electric. So it has a current, it has a light, because it's made out of the light body of the soul. It has a light. And if it, however, is based on the premise of separation, it will be turning in the opposite direction of the column, of this column of light. It will be repelled. It will repel itself, actually, because it's like it doesn't recognize the soul as itself. Because if it would, it couldn't exist. If it would recognize the soul as itself, it would recognize the truth, and it would recognize that it is based in separation. And that, and that's, you can't have both. You can't believe, should I say, you cannot experience yourself as the soul and in total as yourself and as one if there's still a belief in separation. So there's always going to be a disharmony between a negative thought and the stream of the soul. And that disharmony creates repulsion instead of attraction, and then in that attraction, well, that's the thing. If you're afraid of what you attract, you're of course not going to, it's not going to be coherent, the waves are not going to flow into each other without breaking. But if you attract what you enjoy, what you love, then what happens is they don't break, they go on forever. They just go all the way through the heart, wherever they're coming through, what light you're attracting, they always go all the way to the heart and connect with the soul. There, at the heart of the soul. And they go, they can go through, love always goes through all the way up to God. All the way up through the 15 dimensions and beyond. They go way up to that light that is one. Love, pure love, which is unconditional love, which is, yeah. And all the other thoughts that are like more dense or more in a story or not based in that pure unconditional love, but still coming from love. Well, that depends on how far. And then, of course, also how strong the light is coming from another soul. It also will depend. But whatever streams, the waves that meet each other, so waves coming from another soul into my auric field, and they're let in and they're attracted in because it's wonderful, it's like something you want to let in. You know, it's like a wonderful energy. Because, and that energy is only possible with love. Otherwise, you wouldn't want it in. You know, not even the slightest bit of energy, you know. Of course, love is unity. Love is based in truth. Love is based in oneness. Love knows. Love knows itself. There's no fear in love. But that doesn't mean that we cannot feel both at the same time. Because we also have, you know, the soul, the light of the soul in the soul stream, and we also have it in the egoic mind. That creates these, you know, when you have the the negative thoughts, that they split off the energy. So it's like this energy stream here, and then there's a negative thought, kind of like a stone or something that is not water. And you hold a stone, you know, like you have a hose that's really, really, really strong. When you hold a stone in it, it will, you know, disperse the water stream. And that's exactly what happens with a negative thought. With this, breaks off from the soul stream, and it slows down the circulation, the spin of this, of the fluids, but also the energy body that is the torus, where it flows like this. Yeah, I'm not sure. That part I'm not clear on yet. If we are one torus, we are one torus. But whether within that one torus there are two, just like the Merkaba. The Merkaba is the light body at a certain maturity. Then it becomes the Merkaba. And I talked to you about it as the star tetrahedron, and the top spin is in one direction, the bottom spin is in the other direction. Levitational forces, gravitational forces, and that, you know, open up the space or somehow hold you in a certain time-space continuum. There we have it again, you know, time, space. And yeah, it would only make sense that within this toroidal field, there's also, there's a double, I don't know what it's called, double toroidal field. It's like two toroidal fields like this, creating one toroidal field, and exactly like the star tetrahedron. The bottom one in the opposite direction, so let's say the bottom one would be like this way, yeah? And then top one would be this way. And then it sucks it in the middle, in the heart. And of course, there's always this sucking in of the tornado, you know, like, it sucks it in. But then there's also this squirting out of exactly the middle at the same time. So that's why it looks like an apple when you see the toroidal field. And that's what essentially our energetic body, that's what the earth body is built on, that, in that same form. That's, you know, that's how, what the earth body's shape looks like, exactly like that. Because we have, the earth is hollow. There's this tornado. It has a huge, well, it's like a donut. It's a toroidal is not quite like a donut, but similar to it. It's like this. And as we have this column here, the earth has also the column North Pole, South Pole. But it's not just one column. The earth is actually hollow, and then at the middle of it, it has a heart. And every heart is a portal, and every portal is I don't want to say every portal is a portal to light. There are also other portals, but all the hearts are a portal to the light. All hearts are a portal to the light. And depending on how contracted or how expanded they are, they let light in and out to that degree.